Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Moen After Dark here on the College Football Mafia Network. I am your host, Moen, joined by my co-host, Rock and Rant from CFB Express. How are you doing tonight, Rock?
Good. I just wish we had some things to talk about tonight.
Same. It was a rather boring weekend. Nothing happened. There were no coaches being retained or coaches being fired. No players being detained. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk about it though. Notre Dame. I'm going to let you say your piece on Notre Dame because I noticed this weekend on the social media universe, Rock and Rant was very anti-Domer.
Yeah, I'm done. I've been very kind because I was a guest on this world. I've been very kind to my rivals, I would think, for the most part. I am completely done with one of them. You can bleep me if you need to.
All right, we will do that. We will talk about Mike Norvell in Florida State. I, WTF? I mean, WTF? I don't get it. I get. I mean, I get it if it's money, but do you want to win games moving forward? Because it's pretty obvious Mike Norvell isn't going to do that for you in the ACC.
Yeah, listen, I mean, as a rival fan of Florida State, guys, I have mixed emotions, as I said. On the one hand, if your rival's having problems, you kind of like it. But I've always very clearly stated that I like when Florida State is great because it's more fun and more painful for either team to knock out somebody when they're both undefeated or both vying for a championship than to be the third, fourth, or eighth team that dunks them in a season. Plus, I have family and I have friends who are FSU fans, and I know what it's like to be in those shoes. And I get it might be a money thing, but if it's a money thing, I actually have this question. I know the buyout's not the same, Owen, but it's starting to feel like a Mark Stoops Kentucky thing. Because if it's a money thing, and you're saying the whole price is whatever, all in, new staff, new assistants, buyouts, 80, 90, $100 million, cool. So you save $8 to $10 million with 1 year. You still have all of that money to do, right? So how does that really save, let alone how many people are going to not go to a game, are not going to buy dinner in Tallahassee, are not going to do, their donations. And maybe it's not the same amount as you would owe him, but at a certain point, it washes out in the pain. So I feel for Florida State fans, man. I do, actually.
We will talk about it, but let's say hello to some people here first. It is the midst of rivalry week. Here we go. Buckshot Kid says, "Oh, hey, Moen. Good to see you, Buckshot Kid." John Dry's in the house. He says, "Hey, y'all, fins up. I'll watch it after I wake up over at Graveyards. I'll comment about it later. Notre Dame doesn't deserve a spot. They don't play a conference championship." We will talk about it, John. Love to hear your comment. Kiowa 187 or Kai Ohio 187. Maybe that's what it is. I think it is time for the ACC to completely dissolve and reform without a special relationship with Notre Dame. I want all of the Power Four conferences to tell Notre Dame, no conference, no playoffs. Mosito was first, and he says Moen is the word. Let me see if I can find that one for you here, Mosito.
Moen is the word. Moen is the word. All right? I give you permission on this day to say Moen.
Thank you, KOAB. I don't know how you can force Domers to do something they don't want. I am a fan of a Big Ten program, but I'm also a realist. The ACC agreed to the deal because they believed it would get them ahead. Movie Time Blues, thank you, Juan, for reaching out to me on Twitter and hitting me up with that link for that Notre Dame show. I need to share that post. That was some ludicrous stuff. If I've ever heard it, I'll have to share it with you, Rock and Rant. But basically, the hosts say, "How dare the ACC stand up for Miami?"
And, kiss my ass.
And how basically whoever put that post out on social media needs to be fired. It was probably some 20-year-old intern. Relationship between the ACC and Notre Dame is now Cold War status. I'll have to share it with you, Rock and Rant. But basically, the hosts say, "How dare the ACC stand up for Miami?" And how basically whoever put that post out on social media needs to be fired. It was probably some 20-year-old intern relationship between the ACC and Notre Dame is now Cold War I have to. I'll have to find the link. I have to figure out a way to share it to people because it was good.
I've seen some of that. Do you want me to comment now, or you want to wait till you go through all of the
We'll
motions?
wait.
of
We'll
us
wait.
saying
We'll
hello?
wait. We'll wait.
Okay.
But I just thank you, Movie Time Blues, for sending me that link. I love it. If anybody out there's watching, if you ever come across an interesting link or want to get my feedback on it, by all means, just tag me on Twitter at Moen After Dark. C. Curtis says the ACC is almost certain to dissolve. Only the Big and SEC will continue to receive the monster media deals because of the brands. Notre Dame knows a big deal, at minimum 50% better on average.
Then go. Go ahead, Notre Dame. Bye. Kiss my ass. Maybe I'll see you again one day in the Big Ten. Go.
Well, okay. Well, let's do the roll through. We'll do the roll through because I have some things I want to say on this too. Once Miami, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Virginia Tech, UVA go big, Clemson, UNC, Duke, Kansas go SEC. Notre Dame will be the Big in a heartbeat. Imagine the national pool the Big will command. Nebraska and Miami. What a rivalry. Well, Nebraska's still got to rebuild itself.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Rule, shout out.
Thanks for stopping in, C. Curtis. Devil Frog's here. He says Big 10, Big 12, and SEC should tell the ACC if it doesn't close ranks with them on requiring conference membership for Notre Dame and any other Indy FBS school, then the ACC will get the full gloves.
I'm not sure what that means, but they're all ownership in the playoffs, so there's not much they could do to the ACC under the current contract.
SEC likes the Notre Dame ACC situation. SEC won't do anything, otherwise Notre Dame joins the Big Ten. So that won't happen.
That is correct. SEC likes purgatory for the Notre Dame side versus joining the Big Ten.
Jan Hulk says, I think nobody likes Notre Dame's situation, not even the SEC or Big Ten. Right now, they are the only team that always have the upper hand on getting in, even if they have lost to all good teams.
I think you could have just stopped that. I think nobody likes Notre Dame.
Let me see here. I want to make sure we get to everybody. FF18 Buffs, Fergie's here. Hello, report from Boulder. Ralphie 7 is legit. Turkeys cannot fly. Coach Sanders has some splaining to do. Back to you, Mo, and hashtag despair.
But at least, I don't know. I think that you're coming in at least second or third in the despair category, at least today. I think the despair championship is being held in Tallahassee, and on Saturday, it'll be in the Sadness Bowl between FSU and the Gators.
And by the way, guys, just a scheduling note, we will not be doing a Big Freakin' Friday show this week because we're going to be doing a Big Freakin' Wednesday show. We have 20 games we are picking this week. We are picking 20 games for Rivalry Week. And we've invited everybody to come on. Becky, Pickles, Gygax, Rock. We understand some people can't make it, but everybody will be on. We're just going to basically talk about our picks for Rivalry Week. It should be a fun show. Check that out Wednesday. And have the kids watch too. Bring the kiddies.
Hey, Mo, and as we plan live on our show, move certain games up in there because maybe I could jump on for a bit before I have to head on over to the show with Flo.
Okay.
In terms of your layout, right?
Sure. Bob Swanger is in the house. He says, hi, everyone. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob. Great win.
Good win yesterday. I see that Josh Pate and his bullshit has made everybody think that Lane Kiffin is going to Penn State.
I think he means he knows he's going to be going to hot yoga somewhere in 2026.
Yeah. I think Josh Pate is an idiot sometimes.
Yeah,
he
doesn't. He shouldn't do that. He actually has a lot of credibility, right? And I think it's fun to have fun, right? But I don't think that what he did today was. I don't know if it was necessarily helpful for his channel. He's already got the reach and the engagement, and all he's doing is essentially trolling his own audience.
BYU football says, hi, guys. Yes, I was at the game last night. Tough loss for Cincinnati. But I told them at halftime I would be more than willing to go down there and try and kick a field goal because I couldn't do much worse.
That was remarkable. How do you have like one miss in the last 2 years and then 3 in one night?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
like the
was-
kicker swan song definition.
It was bad, but it'd been a while since I'd been to Nippert Stadium, and it's nice. They've really done a really great job at Nippert as far as the you've got level seats and field level boxes and the club and all this other stuff. Solar Noel, haven't seen you before. Welcome. I think Florida State is holding out for prime time. It's probably part of their bigger SEC deal. Dion gets the ratings. Dion does get ratings. We can verify that. Utah's been keeping track of that for the last 2 years. It's a massive ratings win for Colorado.
Here's the problem with that theory, though. 2 problems. And it's a good theory, and welcome to the show, Solar Noel, since we have not seen you. One is Florida State actually gets ratings when they're good. Always have. So I don't know how much additional Dion would bring. He certainly would bring it. He's a celebrity, right? But at a certain point, did like Nick Saban actually bring more eyeballs to Alabama, other than Alabama was just winning and they were champions, right? The second part is, I don't know, like, do you really count on Dion with the health situation he has? And then the third part is there's probably not really a bigger SEC deal done yet. But maybe, who knows behind the closed
I don't
doors.
think there's. And listen, part of this, the expansion deals aren't going to get done until the SCORE Act gets passed. They don't want any negative publicity before that act gets through Congress and signed. Fergie is saying, please take him. Fergie, how far have you guys fallen that you are now saying take Dion? Last year you were praising him.
I know I just screwed you up there, Mo, enough. I'll find the Solar Noel again.
That's fine. Norvell's buyout is about $58 million.
Which means between replacing everybody, right, and additional staff, you're in the $80 to $100 million usually.
Well, and here's my problem with it, and we'll talk more in depth about it, I promise. All these coaches that have done bad, the response is, we're going to keep them. And not only are we going to keep them, we're going to give them more money.
Look, if I was Billy Napier right now, I would go out and trademark the Billy Napier plan, because there are at least 4 teams on it right now, and maybe a 5th one.
Well, I guess I'll have to get on Sora and do an infomercial for the Billy Napier system.
Yeah, it's we're so bad that we have to make a statement that we're not going to fire our CEO. But to help turn it around, we're going to give the CEO we just said we're not going to fire a lot more money to spend, but we'll watch our CEO, who's supposed to be in charge of everything.
Robert Gibbs is here. He says Virginia has no central authority over UVA and Virginia Tech like North Carolina. North Carolina has board of governors who have authority for UNC and North Carolina State's conference realignment. This means in North Carolina, UNC and NCSU do not have power, but Virginia does have the board of visitors. And all public schools within these states usually fall under the purview directly of the governor. Just ask LSU. And by the way,
one way or another,
if you didn't catch it this weekend, I posted a little video on the page of a Pixar movie for Lane Kiffin where he accepts $90 million is supposedly the number that the Louisiana governor has approved in taxpayer money to hire Lane Kiffin. So,
well, you know what? Someone's going to definitely be able to do a before and after, and what he said they would or would not do money-wise before.
Notre Dame could play Connecticut in the title game. There you go. Mr. Ed, come on. What's up with Houston? This is the second week in a row you busted a parlay, man. Like the field goal at the end of the game. Again, these field goals misses have been killing me. It would be refreshing if the CFP chairman would say Notre Dame running up the score against Syracuse is not going to enhance their chances of getting a CFP slot.
But then we wouldn't be able to have the wide open hypocrisy, Moen, of the Notre Dame fan base trolls who come after Miami for having a garbage time touchdown to regain the lead they had when Virginia Tech had a next to garbage time touchdown that made it a 17-point. They kept on going, but they're talking about, you guys got to run the score up, while they just literally boat raced Fran Brown.
Caleb Ramirez says, hi, all. OSU treated that game like a spring game with 3 wide receivers at the top 6 and 2 others didn't play till the second half. And sparingly, a walk-on had the most catches, I think. Yeah, Ohio State was not going to put their, you know, they're a little banged up. They want to make sure everybody's ready for the game this weekend. Thanks for stopping in, Caleb. Good to see you. Stephen Vitt, Josh Pate is an arrogant airhead. In my humble opinion. Josh Pate's a dump truck. Outlaw Sky says, let's go Buckeyes. Stormy Cyclones here. Hello, guys. The handwriting isn't on the wall. I guess we're stuck with it. I'm not sure what handwriting we're talking about. So
I'm assuming he means Notre Dame because I don't think he's talking about Matt Campbell.
probably not. So Louisiana has more money than Mississippi. That shrimp and gumbo revenue must come in handy. Yeah. It just amazes me how much he wanted to save the taxpayers' dollars, and now he's fully prepared to give $90 million in taxpayer dollars to Lane Kiffin.
But it's not taxpayer dollars. It's booster dollars because the boosters wouldn't have given any money for other things that would have helped academics or anything. So.
All right. So we've said hello to everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming in here. If you're new here, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Especially if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. We've had some great subscriber growth over the last month. I want to thank, we've got 150 plus new subscribers in the last 2 weeks. I want to thank everybody for that. That like button helps us tremendously in the algorithm. If you're watching on demand, you can click and leave a comment, and that helps us in the algorithm as well. If you want to give us a little financial support like Miami Flo just did on time, K-State is still running on Utah. Hit the like button. Thank you, Miami Flo. Absolutely, sir. Let's give you a little Miami sounder. Well, who could forget this one? I love that song. From one of the famous documentaries about the city of Miami called Scarface. Thank you for the $5 super chat, Flo. It is appreciated. If you want to leave a super chat like Flo just did, you can click the little cash icon. From there, you can become a member, gift a membership, or leave a super chat. Have a members only video debuting tomorrow. I got home too late last night, and yeah, so I slept till like noon today. So we'll get that Trojans torch the Big Ten deal out tomorrow. Moen, are you nervous about the big game, knowing Michigan could be in the CFP mix with a win? Ohio State's going to the playoff regardless. I'm not going to make myself nervous about the big game, but I hope Ohio State really lays one on them. Fuck Michigan. I agree. What happened to the Utah defense? MIA still haven't been found. And that game probably cost them an opportunity at the playoffs. Any opportunity at the playoffs. They didn't have a great one beforehand, but letting someone rush for 500 some yards on you, especially when we're supposed to, Utah is supposed to be this defensive powerhouse, and how Ute was just saying this week that can't afford to lose Morgan Scalley. Great defensive coordinator. I don't know about that. TF Williams is here as an Null fan. I cannot say we are serious about winning, recruiting, making in-game adjustments, or why we spent the money to gain the ability to leave the ACC. Dion will most likely be like Frost going back to Nebraska, but if Nike and the TV networks want it, then as Dion says, it must be the money. Michigan not going to the playoffs even if they beat Ohio State.
Probably not, but they might jump a bunch. Like, it's very possible.
They would go to the Big Ten championship game in that situation.
Right. But they could also jump. Like, they're the only ones who could do a leapfrog jump, because if they did that, they would instantly have the best win in college football this season. And if you look at their numbers, again, metrics, I'm not even defending them, just stating them, right? They're right in the midst of others, so it depends upon how much, when you add the Ohio State theoretical victory, which I don't believe is going to happen, but if it were, it adds a lot to their strength of record, to their strength of schedule, because they have the number one strength of schedule, so they'll even out, and they'll be in very close space on metrics, most likely. Some people being ahead, some people being behind, some they're all in the same tier with BYU, with Miami, with Notre Dame. So until we see that, and since we don't know the exact metrics, plus whatever part of the pie chart is the optics part, it is entirely possible they can make a big leap. Whether they can leap, because they were 18 in the rankings last week, they'll probably be 14 or 15 maybe on Tuesday night, pending that game. So
They'll be at least 15. That way they could have a top 15 matchup for Fox. But
I don't think they're going to win that game, but it's possible.
Let's just put it this way. Let's start with Mike Norvell, and then we'll talk about Notre Dame. Mike Norvell, news broke today. He is going to be retained for one more year, or at least one more year. And they're going to give him more money. Not him more money, but they're going to invest more money into the football program.
They're basically rebuilding the house around the person they eventually want to evict. They just don't know when they can evict him yet. And if he turns into a good tenant, then maybe he doesn't get evicted, but they already know he's a crappy tenant.
I think so. Obviously, that one undefeated season was an aberration.
He had one other good season, right? But now he's got 4 losing seasons and 6 with one with the asterisk because of COVID.
Right. And even that undefeated season, there were a lot of close wins in it, a lot of Cinderella style, the team of destiny. It'd probably be a better way to describe it, like it was a team of destiny. But I can't understand why people want to invest more money. As you would say, you're throwing good money after bad. It's like chasing it when gambling.
It's almost, Moen, and I'm definitely curious your take, right? If you don't have the money, you don't have the money, right? But I think that the administration there has basically trolled their fan base, because what they said weeks ago was that they were going to make a full evaluation after the season. Last time I checked, their biggest rivalry game, or second biggest, depending upon your point of view, with Florida, even though both teams are not having great years, is this coming week, and that's the end of the season. So how did you suddenly make a decision? I think that they knew that they weren't going to do this, and because they either didn't have the money or didn't have the inclination to spend the money for whatever reason, and that they were hoping from the moment that they had to say something, because the Stanford game was so bad, that he would go on some sort of roll, 3-1, 2-2, tight games, whatever it might be, so that they could then say we're taking him back with some defensible reason. But once that didn't happen and the NC State game happened, they just made the decision that they were going to do anyway, and they were just stalling for time. And I think that makes it very questionable, if you're a Florida State fan, whether you trust what they're telling you. And yes, you can take whatever I'm saying with the grain of salt, but I'm not saying anything that if you watch a dozen other Florida State channels, they're not saying.
Yeah, it's shocking to me when you see Power 4 records over the last 2 years, and you see Florida State as one of the worst.
Like one of the worst.
One of the worst. And this is Florida State we're talking about. And listen, people accuse me of being biased against Florida State because I'm a Big Ten guy, but listen, I realize Florida State is not a blue blood, but they're a new blood. They have 3 national championships, consistent program from the 1990s. Even under Jimbo Fisher, they had a little bit of success. It's almost shocking. It's not almost shocking. It is shocking to see Florida State listed alongside of Maryland.
Yeah, and the wild part, too, is Mike Norvell has not been known for recruiting. He actually, despite what's going on, on paper right now, we're not at signing day. Flips can happen, things can change, but right now in 24/7, Florida State's recruiting rankings is 14th overall from the team perspective. I didn't do it per recruit to see if they rise or fall because of the weight of the stars that they have, but he's doing better in recruiting. But you're not, maybe is that too little too late? I thought it was going to be too little too late until earlier today. It was like sort of that thing where I was shocked that they kept him, but we weren't surprised right at the same time because it had been speculated. But I thought after that game on Friday night, which is basically, there's going to be 4 memes out of that game for college football, right? Including the punt to the helmet that goes backwards 30 yards. I thought after that, he was shot. Like, even if they were trying to keep him after that, there'd just be too much embarrassment because it was just grossly miscoached team. But apparently not. So if you're a Florida State fan and you spent a lot more money and you donated to the new stadium and your seat ticket prices went up and now you get this, like, how do you feel?
Here's my point of view on it. You've looked at Mike Norvell for the last 3 seasons. He had the perfect season, 2 bad seasons. Do you really think, if we're looking at trends, it is not trending positively? In fact, it has trended negatively consistently. Do you think one more year is going to suddenly trend positively? And I think we can all agree it's probably not. It's probably not. Now, it might. I might be wrong. Norvell could prove us all wrong and win a national championship next year. I'm just saying it's trended negatively the last 2 seasons. But I'm not even talking like, I'm talking historically negatively.
Yeah. But Mo, there's some bean counter in there who knows nothing about the game and doesn't really care about it, and the fans who's sitting there going, well, Mo, and if you were in that meeting, if you were a fly on the wall, we increased our wins 250% so far this year, and we still have 1 game left to go.
Yes, but it's been a historically bad run for Florida State over the last 2 years.
But
Why would you
Alabama.
invest? Why would you invest more money? We're going to give him more money. We're going to put more money into this football program with a terrible head coach.
Look,
just
think
wait
it's
a year and
insane.
fire him. I mean, it's almost, you're basically, and if you're a Florida State fan, you have to do something. You have to stand up to the administration and say, hey, I'm canceling my season tickets. Hey, I'm not showing up anymore. If you're an alumni, tell them, hey, I'm not paying anymore. No more booster checks. You have to do something because they basically, to me, this is capitulation. This is saying, okay, we're just going to agree to suck next year. We're going to throw another season down.
It's terrible, right? And, Mo, I think you're right. The fans have to, but I think you got to change your focus. You have to change your focus to Strickland. And I say that as a Miami fan who had terrible coaches for a number of years but ultimately had a super terrible athletic director named Blake James, who's now the athletic director of Boston College. Shout out to what he's been able to do for the Boston College football program. And it got so bad after he hired Manny Diaz, not having a pulse for understanding that Mark Richt was going to retire because of illness, and having to spend $4 or $5 million to buy him out from Temple before he even coached the game, to bring him to Miami, that after year 3, we didn't focus our efforts on Manny Diaz, even though he was frustrating us. I have pictures on social, and I'm not the only one, where I got my ticket renewal package in the orange envelope, and I wrote on a Sharpie, don't call me again until Blake James is fired. And I didn't send it UPS. I sent it by a delivery courier to make sure it got there. And me and other people did it, and eventually the noise got so loud that it led to people like past players, Jonathan Vilma, going to Kirk Herbstreit and owning Miami on College game day that finally woke people up. Now, we did not have this level of buyout that they're having to do, and I'm not acting like it's easy, nor do I have the solution of how you get that money. But penny wise, dollar foolish. It's going to cost you money in the long run. Big mistake. And I don't care about realignment or all these other things, right? Like, you got to take care of the basics of your program. You got to show respect for your fans. You can't really lie to them because people have a really good bullshit detector going on. And I feel like those fans got lied to. Feel free to use that anyone. Just put it in your own words if you want.
Right. As far as realignment, I think this does shoot yourself in the foot because it obviously brings your value down in realignment. Say what you will, but everybody loves a winner. And if you're, let's say next year, just best case scenario, they go 5-7 under Mike Norvell. Was it worth it to not fire him this year to get to 5-7?
But do they fire him next year? Right. So if it's let's just make it even. Like I said earlier, we know that Mark Stoops hasn't been fired most recently because he has a really bad buyout clause, which is that there isn't one, that they owe him everything within 30 days, and there's no offset. There's no reason that they fired Mark Stoops at Kentucky. I'm not saying they're doing it this year, but last year this conversation came up that they had to have basically $30 or $40 million available right away because there were no negotiations, contractually owed, doesn't have to go get a job, give me the money and I walk away. That's not necessarily the deal here, right? But the number's a lot bigger. But if you wait a year and he goes 5-7, and if you waited a year because of financial considerations, now you're still, all right, you're not talking about 100 million, now you're talking about 90 million, or let's say it was 90 million, now you're talking about 80 million. What's the difference? What's the difference at 70 million? If the all in between buyout, which you can negotiate down potentially, right? But just the top level number, what's the difference? So what is the record that makes them do the decision that they should be doing now after they gave them a break last year?
Yeah, I think your building analogy is right, but I would put it this way: it's like building a house around a rotten frame. I'm going to bring in marble granite, granite countertops and Carrara marble for my bathroom, but I'm still going to build my house around a rotten frame. Well, your house is going to collapse.
Yeah.
I mean,
or at least you're building a house around a dead body. It's going to make it so nobody ever wants to live there again.
Yeah, I don't understand it, and I don't understand the idea of let's put more money into it. I don't. If you're having money issues to the point where you're saying we can't afford his buyout because of money issues, which is entirely possible. $58 million is a lot of money. I'm not saying it's not, but if you're having money issues, how can you justify putting more money into the program? And how can you justify putting more money into the program with a leader like Mike Norvell, who has shown a negative trend for the last 2 years?
Hey, Mo, and listen, I think this was a well thought out decision. They got a bunch of consultants, so they got a room, and they got Baylor's administration in, and they got Wisconsin's administration in, and they got Maryland's administration in, and they brought in last year's administration of Florida to consult.
Yes, but here's the thing. I can understand Maryland doing this. I can understand Wisconsin doing this. I can even understand Baylor doing it. This is Florida State. Have you heard from one Florida State fan that is enthusiastic about this decision?
No, they're apocalyptic for the most part. Because before we even got to here, the people who were willing to give him a benefit of the doubt, the people who even in the beginning of the year were just instantly turned back because of how fantastic the win against Alabama was and how that offense looked in the next two games. Even if it was against lesser competition, the offense was still disproportionately awesome, and you have to acknowledge that. Once things flipped, I don't even know if his family's on his team, right? I guess the question really is for Florida State, with all the investments you've already done into the stadium, when is Florida State going to act like we are Florida State? That's what I want to know, because that's how you should be acting.
Yeah, definitely. Baylor's doing the same thing after the AD Macrodes left. They decided to keep Aranda for at least one more year. Again, it's Baylor, though, and I don't mean to say that to be talking down to Baylor, but Florida State and Baylor are two very different programs.
Yeah. Florida State and Baylor are two different programs. No one in the pros has stolen their cheer and chant for their baseball team like the Braves did.
Spot on, Mo, and I am surprised as well to see FSU in the position they're in currently. Yeah, it's historically bad. Personally, I think Florida State is smart. They want our trash-talking fans quiet until we leave the ACC because everyone hates the Noles when they are good. I'd rather be hated than
Inject hate. I love hate. Hate is good.
If Florida State doesn't even get to 7-5 next year, Norvell will be in serious trouble.
Wait, hold on a second. Did you save that for this year from last year's show?
That's true. But last year we can say it was an aberration. You could make the argument.
You can make the argument, and you can
now
make
in
the argument
hindsight
that
it would be wrong,
challenge.
but you could have
Right.
made the argument last year that it's an aberration, DJU, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This year you can't make that argument. Jimmy Sexton never loses. Absolutely right.
He will 3 to 5% you to death.
You're right. Wisconsin is doing the exact same thing, and they've said the same thing that Florida State is. We're going to put more money behind it. As a fan, I mean, you have to put some kind of economic situation to bear on these people. And if you keep going to the games, if you keep paying for luxury boxes, if you keep paying for season tickets, and I realize I come from a very blessed place, that I'm an Ohio State fan, and we're consistently good, and we've been consistently good for a very long time. But, I mean, the one time we had a coach go 6-6, that was his only year as the head coach. Bama was going to hire Norvell, and LSU wanted Jimbo Fisher.
Bama was not going to hire Norvell. He wasn't. He was not going there. I'm sorry, guys. I know people think that. I know that's the legend. He was going to there because Sexton played it. And maybe you're being sarcastic. So no, I don't know, but I have a very good authority that was never the case. But it was played extremely well in the media, and token interviews and things like that happened, but he was not number 1, 2, or 3 on their list.
Jimmy Sexton is making millions off of these Southern schools just on rumors.
That is the most true statement anyone will ever say.
Absolutely.
And goes right back to what I just said.
Have a whisper campaign. Mac Rhodes, whatever happened there. There's rumors too, Master. There's rumors. I don't know if any of them are true, so I'm not going to repeat them, but there are rumors that are out there on social media.
Well, it's without saying anything, it's not like he was like late for work one day.
Yes. Yeah, it was something more significant than that.
It was like Godfather, like you won't see him around here no more.
Yeah. Oh, Paulie won't see him no more. I don't blame Jimmy Sexton. He's the goat of agents right now, but the schools, especially the public ones, need some equal footing against him. Yeah, well, it's easy to win when you're only playing against yourself.
But your theory is 100% correct, right? But let's look at Lane Kiffin. You have to which school is going to back down on that theory and start it? And if all 3 don't, Florida, Ole Miss, and LSU, let's assume it's not settled yet. If all 3 don't, then what happens? If only 1 does, then it's all it took. And then the next time you're like, oh, I wound up with nothing. If the Gators wind up not getting Lane Kiffin as an example, and they actually came to the table of the crazy thing, that fan base is going to lose their mind. There is no backup plan for them that they are acceptable on. There's just ones they will be less upset about in the long run. So what do you do in those situations? Now, Lane Kiffin is an extreme example in every single way we can talk about, right? Regardless of how you think this is or is not being handled, that's its own show and a whole other list of questions. But that's the fact, right? So who's going to be the first one willing to not pay the money?
Great question. Great question. I don't think it has an answer, but it adds another question of, let's say Lane commits to one of them. What do the other 2 do?
I think Ole Miss has options. Florida's going to have a lot of options. I just don't know that any of those options are sexy enough for the Gators fans to be okay with. Ole Miss will feel, my opinion, right? Like, I don't know, but I'm watching and I talk to people too, but like Ole Miss fans will be pissed and dejected that it happened, but they will rally around getting rejected when they came with everything, right? and they will be then okay with other options.
They can use it. They can use it. They can use that anger. They can use that upset to put an interim coach in there and maybe win the whole damn thing. They can use that.
Yeah.
Florida, listen, I like Alex Golesh as a coach. I think he deserves to get hired to a Power 4 program. But let's be honest, if Florida misses on Lane Kiffin and has to settle for Alex Golesh, you're going to have a lot of Gator fans not happy.
There's a lot of work you got to do. But the thing, like LSU fans will be mad if they lose Lane Kiffin as well. But the Gators fans will be a completely different level because in their minds, because they did and originated the Billy Napier plan that Florida State is now doing in their minds, and probably 99% in reality, if they had fired Billy Napier last year before Lane had this team and got more, embedded into the Ole Miss community, or the LSU job became available as another option, if they had made a move on Billy Napier last year, Lane Kiffin is already in Gainesville. And they're almost certainly right.
I think for that infomercial, we should have it start with, "Hi, Billy Napier here. Let me tell you about my Billy Napier system."
I want him to come work at what I called Coach Max, where you can just come one-stop shopping for all your coaches, and he could be our lead salesman because somehow we convinced somebody to give him a job paying that much money and buying out that much.
BYU football, Sean says there's no reason, especially with the access to recruiting in Florida, that Florida State and Florida are this bad. LOL. Hey, listen, myself and Rock aren't complaining because we're reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to dunk too harshly on that because you could have at various times over the last 20 years replaced either one of those names with Miami and been the exact same spot.
Friends call me Sean. Good to see you, Sean. Cal fires coach after going 6-5 and being bowl eligible. 6-5 not good enough at Cal, but at Florida State 5-6 is good enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
well, let's also
perfect.
keep in mind that Cal situation has been. They want Ron Rivera in there as coach, and by God, they were going to get Ron Rivera in there as coach.
But you know what, because this happened later in the day, I think what Friends Call Me Sean just said is probably going to be, if the Florida State fan base wasn't already exploding, that would be it. Like, that would be it, that Cal cares more about football. And I granted, the money thing isn't an issue, but if you're a fan, you don't really care because somebody else is the idiot who signed that deal, right? Even if at the time people were in favor of it or not, that's a different conversation. But right now, it's very focused. If Cal's making a decision when Cal is actually on the ascent generally, right, and they have a potential quarterback that that's already impressing everyone, a 5-star talent that if he stays could really help the program could ride, and they fire somebody at 6-5, and they're not doing it, that might just be the thing that just makes people go postal.
And here's my thing: that kid's not staying at Cal. He is not looking at what Fernando Mendoza did at Indiana and saying, "Let me stay here at Cal." He's going to go get paid in the Big Ten or the SEC.
Until today, I could not have disagreed with you more. He was definitely staying at Cal next year. He said it. He's getting a ton of money, and he was going to, at a minimum, give Cal one more year. He's a very religious guy, and he swore that he wasn't, but I don't know enough, and I'm reaching out to people that we've had on from the Cal who have connections, and I know we have some within the family here at the Mafia, but I was positive he was staying until here. I don't know now I'm not sure what his relationship was with his coach versus what his relationship might be with Rivera. So my positivity yesterday, before they lost to freaking Stanford in that game, in that rivalry that you don't want to lose to no matter what your records are, I can't say that I have that same confidence. Let's put it this way. That kid probably either shut his phone off or threw it in the bay today, because the minute that news broke, every single agent and every single coach with a pulse in Power 4, including ones who have a freaking someone going to go to New York with a Heisman Trophy possibility, is also calling him.
Yeah, Kurt Signetti was on the phone early today, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure he was.
Stormy Cyclone asks this Lane Kiffin problem with holding Ole Miss hostage. Is this a Kiffin problem, an Ole Miss problem, or a college football problem? For me personally, I believe it's a Lane Kiffin problem. This has a very, very easy solution. You tell LSU and you tell Florida, hey, I'm in the middle of a season. I'm competing for a national championship with my team. Once we're out of it and we're eliminated, then you can talk to me. But I'm not going to talk to you before then.
I think it's a college football problem because of the schedule conflicts of all of this with portal, playoffs, recruiting window, all of that together. So it's like a gas station that the tank leaked, and then you add Lane Kiffin, and it explodes. That's what I think. The fuel was already there. You just got the best, fire starter in college football.
Yeah, for me, it's a personal responsibility thing, and if I'm a coach, that's what I would do. That would be the right thing to do. But Lane Kiffin obviously isn't a fan of the right thing.
It's just he kind of did I'm going to do this redemption tour and become people's favorite person on social media from college football, except for when I slurp for the SEC in the playoff time, right? Even if my team's not in it, but I'm going to redeem myself from the past and become like a lovable creature. And then I'm going to figure out how to burn all of that in 2 weeks or less.
Yeah, and I don't fault him for wanting to go to Florida or LSU.
This is not about the opportunity; it's about the approach, right?
Right. It's those are huge programs. I'm not begrudging him that. I'm not begrudging him going and getting $90 million. I'm begrudging the fact that he's got a bunch of kids that are playing for him or playing for a championship potentially, and their coach is busy playing footsie with the other teams. Stormy Cyclone says, great responses tonight, guys. Thank you, Stormy. I appreciate it, sir. Okay, so we've talked about coaches. Let's talk about Notre Dame now. Notre Dame, if you guys didn't catch it yesterday, Notre Dame passed the eye test. By beating Syracuse by 70 with 14 touchdowns and Jeremiah Love running crazy as if he was Hulkamania.
And up 28-0 without Jeremiah Love having done anything yet because Syracuse was playing their lacrosse team.
Absolutely. I owe a sounder to Stormy Cyclone. Let me find something here. Here we go. Here's one.
And what you gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
What are you gonna do when Notre Dame mania runs wild on Syracuse here, guys? 70 points on Syracuse. And the part is, I don't think Notre Dame needs the style points.
They didn't.
I think Notre Dame gets in regardless based off the fact they're Notre Dame.
Look, I think Notre Dame belongs in the playoffs, right? Now, who that means isn't there or not. And I guess I acknowledge that they get the benefit of the doubt for Notre Dame. And I think the whole conversation of two great losses is dicey at best. But I can even acknowledge that to some degree, right? But if you go through the metrics that we know that they use, or a version of, whether we like that they use them or not, whether we like that we don't know what percentage of any decision is based off of them, even if you think that Notre Dame is granted rights that they shouldn't have, it doesn't take away from the fact that Notre Dame right now in the FPI, as trash as I think it is, I'm only mentioning it because we know that some version of it is in part of the metrics the committee does. But they are number 3 in that, right? But they're not fundamentally that far away from BYU, who is 15 on that, but actually BYU is 6th on strength of record, which is 6 better than Notre Dame's is, right? And on game control, BYU and Miami and Notre Dame are all in the same vicinity. And there's another one called average winning percentage, and Miami's way better on that one than actually right in front of Notre Dame. So depending upon which one of those metrics that we don't know how they account for them and how they might put them together in a new protein shake of data BS, they have a strong resume, regardless of not necessarily having an amazing win that actually is getting worse because USC lost, right? But it's still going to be probably a top 20 win. And yes, they have 2 of the better losses based off of the rankings. But the illogic of head-to-head is insane. The acting like they've done so much because they haven't lost recently. I would like to congratulate Notre Dame for these 2 stunning facts. It's amazing. You ran the gauntlet. Congratulations on beating 3 of the Power Four's last place teams. I don't know what you would do without it. Congratulations. Yes, you had these really big losses, but they were great ones. And that amazing record you had over the last 9 games includes beating 3 of the Power Four teams, last place teams. Yesterday, when they were having fun dunking on Miami because Miami beat Virginia Tech by 17 and against a 17.5-point favorite and did a last-second touchdown to Malachi Toney to just make up essentially for Virginia Tech getting a last-second thing on a game that Miami had control of the entire time despite ESPN chyrons while they were running up the score against the lacrosse team. They conveniently forget that they were only up 5 points at 1-10 Boston College 3 weeks ago at halftime, only won that game by 15 when they were 30-point favorites. And honestly, Miami's a hated team, and I'm okay with it. Like, I'd rather be loved and hated than like ignored and people don't give a crap. But there's a reason why most of America has come around is because they might not like Miami, but they've made Miami America's team for some reason because it's a symbol for BYU also getting screwed, for the Big 12 getting screwed, for the ACC potentially getting screwed, and for generally Notre Dame fans, you're just freaking toxic jerks on social media. And I would like to say something more, but if you want to see how hard I would go at them, go to my social media profile. You can come over to College Football Express because I don't want this video to get demonetized for the Mafia.
I want to send you the video Movie Time Blues sent me, and I want you to react to the timestamp he sent because
yes,
I think it would be a great video. It would probably be, you'd probably have to mark it 18 plus, but it would be a great video. But we'll have to views. Listen, and I'm going to be honest with you. I got to take a little schadenfreude in this. I enjoy a certain part of this that Notre Dame is going to block the ACC from getting a second team in this year.
You're right. They very well could. And, you know, Mo, that's a complicated one as well, right? There's a lot of Miami fans right now who are sitting there on our message board saying we shouldn't play them anymore, that this is ridiculous, right? So let me start with that. I understand that thought, right? Because if you're not going to get credit for the head-to-head because it was too early in the year, you can sit there and say, let's do these later. So let's do that. But the problem is if you're Miami, if you're another ACC team in the future with that, even if you're not getting head-to-head and you think that's BS and you think the committee's ridiculous, you're right to think that. You're right to feel that. You have a right to feel that way. The flip side is if you're Miami and you took Notre Dame out and replaced someone throughout, we should just play UCF. It's a Power 4 team. It's in the state, right? Let's do that instead. They've been wanting to play. The problem with that is you take Notre Dame out, and yes, they lose Miami as a good loss, but they would still have very good metrics. You're going to lose whatever contribution Notre Dame does in a future year to your metrics to whatever degree that matters. So it's hard to sit there and say, hey, yes, you're right. We might not be getting the benefit of that win, but you're also losing the benefit of a strong out-of-conference opponent that you can schedule in a world where right now it doesn't look like you're going to have a very easy time getting an SEC team or a Big Ten team onto your schedule to replace them as like a payback for all of this drama because Miami and South Carolina just canceled their series as a result of the SEC and the ACC both going to an additional conference game. But that I didn't see the video you're talking about, and then I'll shut up. If they're talking about how they're pissed that the ACC is politicking for Miami in football, and they're saying, well, they're not supposed to politic for anybody. No, you freaking idiots. They're not supposed to say anything against one school over the other when you're in the same conference in the same sport. You're not in the football conference. Shut the freak up. Learn to read. Maybe if you had some more graduate schools, you would have a better understanding of how things work instead of only reading the selective parts of like either the College Football Playoff Committee's selection criteria or the ACC rules about how they should or shouldn't promote one school against the other when you're not even in the damn conference for the sport.
And that's kind of my point, Rock, is The ACC has a special arrangement with Notre Dame.
Yeah, abused spouse.
Yes, because they have this special arrangement with Notre Dame. Notre Dame basically has access to scheduling and where they can keep most of their sports. And because of that, the ACC, I really got to send you this video. You know what? I don't want to get hit with a copyright strike. I was going to say I might share it right now and we'll just watch it and get a live reaction, but I don't want. I think if they saw the live reaction, they might hit us with a copyright strike, and I don't want that. Even though I would have to disagree that it is fair use, but I'll send it to you later. But it's schadenfreude on my part. I enjoy it because, hey, the ACC wanted to give the ACC has bent over backwards for Notre Dame. I think we can agree on that.
Bent over backwards is definitely a kinder way of saying what I would say.
They've bent over backwards with their balls tied in a knot for Notre Dame. They gave them Stanford and Cal and SMU. That was what Notre Dame wanted.
Correct.
Notre Dame desperately wanted that. Notre Dame told them, okay, we need better games on our schedule, so you have to make sure that we play Florida State, Miami, and Clemson more often. They signed a deal to play Clemson. That was a deal between Notre Dame and Clemson, but they're obviously going to lose USC off their schedule. And in spite of the ACC doing all this for them, in spite of that, Notre Dame is not only going to block the ACC from getting a second spot, they're out there politicking now. They're out there running up scores. They're out there putting style points on the board to do it. They're going above and beyond what they need to do. They could just let this all play out, but they're going above and beyond to screw over the ACC. To the point, like I said, you have these fan accounts threatening the ACC that if the ACC doesn't do what they want and back off from supporting Miami, and you're absolutely right, this is about time. I agree with you 100%. It's about time somebody in the ACC stood up for an ACC team. And I think it was right for them to stand up and say, hey, no, Miami beat Notre Dame. Miami should be. Why are we not discussing Miami in the college football playoff?
Let's not give them that much credit. It's like the ACC football social media. I don't even think it's gone on the ACC channel itself.
It's something.
It hasn't been Jim Phillips out. By the way, Dan Radakovich, sure. Can you do a proof of life? It would be okay for you to do a proof of life. By the way, BYU AD, you should probably do a proof of life. At least Brett Yormark has said something. I would do a proof of life if I were you guys. Now, not next week, not the week after, now. Do I think it's going to matter? I don't freaking know. But what else you got better to do other than defend your schools? That's your job.
Dave's here says Notre Dame is the ACC second team. Really? Because is Notre Dame sharing their playoff money with the ACC? I don't think so. They get to keep it all. They get to keep it all. Meanwhile, another
they get a
ACC
full vote, but they don't. They get a full vote over everything, but actually contribute $0 from the football side.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, if there was a second ACC team, that would be divided among the conference. So they are not the ACC second team.
They're the ACC side hustle that has overtaken the main business.
If Virginia and SMU went out, they will both be in the ACC championship game. That is so true, and I called it on Friday. I said, whenever we all pick the same team to win, without fail, they lose. And we all picked Georgia Tech, and Pitt beat the shit out of them. I mean, there was one moment there where it looked close, and then they had a 100-yard pick six. And the game was effectively over at that point.
Crazy game.
Yeah. Absolutely. But we're going to go for about another 15 more minutes, guys. Keep the comments coming. We'll read as many comments as we get to. Obviously, we put a preference on member comments, but we'll read as many as we can get to. If American Champ and JMU finish higher than ACC champs, what happens then?
Well, they would both get in, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that can happen. I don't think they would allow that to happen.
Well, you don't even have to allow it to happen. I don't think it's. I think even following half of their rules, it just won't happen. I know that they're in the AP poll right now, but the AP poll is not the playoff poll. Like JMU is the highest ranked Group of 5 team in the Associated Press pool for the second week, but they weren't on the playoff list last week. Pitt will jump up into the committee thing on Tuesday. JMU just gets killed by strength of schedule, and they get killed every time Louisville loses. JMU dies a little bit more for the playoff committee because the only Power 4 game that they had of significance was against Louisville, and they lost by 14. And Louisville's having a challenging end to their season after their loss to SMU yesterday.
Solar Knoll says, looks like Miami and Notre Dame are not so close anymore. Shows you that you should never vote with Notre Dame. Absolutely. Never trust the Irish.
But it's not really about the Miami and Notre Dame fan bases are going after each other, and the ACC is doing it, but it's not like Miami, admins or stuff are going after Notre Dame that way, or that Jim Phillips is. So it's two toxic fan bases going after each other, and people have chosen their fighter. And the rare time, for the most part, it's instead of Miami against the world, it's basically Miami and a bunch of our friends who will probably hate each other an hour later, but we all hate Notre Dame more. Combining forces.
Solar Knoll brings that up. I wish Florida State and Miami would team up again against the SEC and Notre Dame. Like in the 80s and 90s, I was hurt that Miami did not go up against the ACC with Clemson and North Carolina.
One day, Solar Knoll, I think there's going to be a Netflix show about all of that. And I think we might find, actually I have a pretty good feeling that we might find, and I've had different answers to this before, but as time has gone by, I've heard more. There was a definite benefit, even if it didn't work out exactly the way people wanted, to having two state institutions doing the lawsuit versus entangling a private institution where a whole different set of laws did or didn't apply. And if you want to find out who was one of the biggest law firms supporting FSU and where their corporate offices are and who the lead on that one was, you might want to just Google it or ask ChatGPT.
And don't forget, North Carolina State was actually the one that broke. If North Carolina State had not broke, Stanford and Cal would not be in the ACC today. Neither would SMU. Don't ever forget that ACC sold a spot in their conference to a G5 school.
That's potential champion SMU, my friend.
That's true. 71 Big Easy says the Irish is the ACC side chick, KML.
No, it's more like the ACC is the Irish's side chick.
It's more like the ACC is the Irish's bitch. Or punk.
Punk, whichever.
Phillips is a cuck. Sean says, if you're a blue blood on the bubble, the committee is going to do everything they can to put them in. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. It is about brand. It is about ratings. Yeah. It is about brand value.
I'm dying to see what happens if BYU, before the championship game, gets to the 10 slot in the rankings. Let's say Oregon loses at Washington, a possible, if not probable thing. If Alabama were to lose to Auburn, if Ole Miss, with all this craziness, were to lose to Mississippi State. But let's just say if BYU gets to number 10, which basically is supposed to mean that you were in, period, right? Other than the people get bumped out for 11 or 12 for the last two conference champions. And if they then went to the Big 12 championship game and lost again in whatever fashion to Texas Tech, what happens? That'll tell us a lot too, if that scenario played out.
Yeah, but it makes you wonder why a team like Miami is getting overlooked, because Miami is certainly... We can always make this argument of who is and who isn't a blue blood, but listen, Miami has 5 national championships in the last 5 decades, so...
Well, it must be that our TV ratings are bad. Oh, that's right, it's actually in the top 10 this year.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens with Miami to see if that's true.
Yeah, but BYU's got a legitimate complaint about what's going on, too, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
They only have one loss.
They do. But, I mean, it was...
a better loss than Notre Dame's. At least one of... It's a better loss than one of Notre Dame's losses.
One of Notre Dame's losses, yeah. James Madison is the lead dog in the AP, followed by Texas State and Tulane.
Correct.
And then,
but but they were there last week too and did not make the playoff committee rankings, and Tulane did.
And then everything Texas State does, they'll celebrate. Texas State mentioned. Go Wildcats.
That's big, man. You know, there's
North
nothing wrong with
Texas,
like.
too. I mean, North Texas is, I think,
Yeah.
only has one loss.
Got to start somewhere. Like getting in when you're not always ranked, when you get into the others receiving votes in the AP poll, which we all give a lot about preseason and up to 3 weeks ago, right, as the best guide of what we think is going to happen. Like that's now we may not care about it broadly, but if I'm a school, my team hasn't really ever been ranked or is ranked now or receiving votes, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. Tim Bruckmiller says the state of Texas could get 4 Texas schools in the CFB. A&M, Texas Tech, SMU, UNT. Absolutely right.
Completely possible.
Completely possible. They could also get Texas in as well.
And shout out to the.
If Texas
Moen.
beats Texas A&M, I think maybe they could get back up to 10.
No. If they do that, the world will cease to exist. That would just be, that would just be devastating. But I will give credit to the American Conference. They might, in this world of uneven schedules within conferences where you don't play everybody in the division to at least ascend to the championship game, or you don't have the similar schedules. I mean, Virginia and Miami's overlap schedule is basically non-existent in the ACC. Just luck of the draw. Who the hell knew where Virginia was going to be? But when you get into multiple tiebreakers in the American Conference, they actually do this thing called let's check the college football playoff rankings and see who is there. And if they're not, if nobody's ranked or they need the second team in a tiebreaker, they go to another ranking. They're not doing like my cousin's winning percentage against my brother's team's friends got me to the playoff championship game.
Steve wants to let us know also, and Daniel Gygax has been following this closely for us. The Tarleton State Texans are the number 4 seed in FCS. Go Texans. Or I like them to be called the Tarlungs.
Why hasn't he gotten the Tarleton State AD on by now?
I don't know. We've done more to promote Tarleton State than I think anybody else has.
I think so. You could almost be like their PR firm outside of their own PR firm.
Absolutely. We love Tarleton State here. Do I have the Tarleton State? I don't have the Tarleton State thing on here. That's unfortunate. In the unlikely case that Michigan beats OSU, it would blow a bunch of stuff up. Not really. Ohio State would still make the playoffs. Michigan probably wouldn't. I don't think it would be enough to move Michigan up in front of some people. Here's the thing. Let's say Ohio State wins and Indiana wins out. Indiana wins out against Purdue. I know that's a shocker. Those teams went out. They go to the Big Ten championship game. There's a possibility that the loser of that game gets a bye.
I think it's entirely possible that the loser of that game gets a bye. It might be the most glorified championship game exhibition in the history of any sport.
Another Christmases in Detroit. Come on, PJ. Better worry about that axe first. A lot of football left. Rivalry week is going to be awesome. I'm hoping for upsets and chaos. Can you imagine if Mississippi State, Auburn, Texas, and Michigan win?
I'm pulling for Mississippi State, Auburn, and Washington to win. That's my selfish trifecta.
You're crazy. Michigan beats OSU. They're in. We'll see where they got them ranked this week. I think it depends on where they have them ranked this week, but I don't see them jumping.
I think there's a shot they could jump 6 spots or so. But that's still they'd have to. I think there's a shot that they could have a massive jump because if everything just comes together. But so I'm neither as certain as Dave's here, nor as doubtful as Moen. I'm like on the Goldilocks bed in the middle.
Everything Texas State says, smoke them Tarletons if you got them. Phillips ACCCP. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Yeah, I do not know.
It's trying to put ACCP like Soviet Union, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
The Irish is trying to be like Cobra Kai, no mercy. Notre Dame should either lobby for the field to expand to 16, join a conference so the committee has more comparison points, or go 1-1 in their 2 challenging games instead of 0-2.
They could also just go kick rocks.
I don't. Why would Notre Dame do that? Notre Dame gets everything handed to them as it is now.
No, this is such a great channel. Other than language, I know I can safely say whatever I want about Notre Dame because we have self-filtered them out, unless there are lurkers. And if there are lurkers, come find me.
We've had 4 Horsemen pod on here before. I have no problem putting Notre Dame Irish fans on.
Oh, I'm just talking about the trolley fans. I don't mean like you can't speak to a Notre Dame fan. My best guests on our channels are Florida and Florida State guys, and they're great.
We're far too lowbrow for Notre Dame fans. Come on.
Yeah.
No one liked to see Wisconsin win yesterday. Wisconsin fans probably did. I think Minnesota fans need to worry about Wisconsin, Tony.
Interesting how the team has reacted, coincidentally or as a result of, what's happened since the announcement of keeping Luke Fickell. I don't know that anybody would have predicted that they have. Wait a second. What is it? Oh, yeah, they have more top 25 wins than most of the teams going into the playoffs. Now, granted, it's at the lower end, but it is still true. And some of those might fall out this week.
Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner, was a former ND assistant AD. Maybe that's why he loves him so much. I don't know. All right, let's do our last call here, Rock, as soon as I can figure out how to do this. Thank you. All right, Rock. It was a hell of a Saturday in college football. I'm exhausted. My voice is exhausted.
Yeah.
What's your last call?
My last call is College Football Playoff Committee. Follow your own damn rules the way they're listed with some degree of consistency. And if you can't have somebody who can speak to your rules, that any college football fan who has watched the games that week knows that you're lying or incompetent or corrupt or all of the 3, then find somebody else to do it. I know that poor guy got put on the spot, but last week was a joke. The inconsistencies were crazy, and I'm not even speaking just about Miami. There were multiple ones in there that were absolutely ridiculous. Get your act together. It would be nice for you guys to have some consistency before we come into one of the biggest closing weekends in college football history, where essentially every conference championship game is still not determined in some form, right? And that's tremendous. So get your act together, at least show some degree of competence. And then unrelated, Moen was cool enough to join Flo and I this week talking about wide receiver universities. I just put the link in the chat. If you're looking for something to watch when we wrap up, come on over and see that conversation. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a very fun conversation. I appreciate you and Flo having me on there on Thursday. My last call for the evening is College Football Playoff Committee. Please make it 5 SEC teams, 3 Big Ten teams, 1 Big 12 team, 1 ACC team, 1 G6 team, Notre Dame. We absolutely have to have unity in college football. I think nothing could bring unity more than Notre Dame getting undeservedly put into the college football playoff yet again because of their brand. And lastly, fuck Michigan. I want to thank everybody who stopped in and gave us comments. I want to especially thank Miami Flow and Stormy Cyclone for the super chats. Just as a reminder, tomorrow we will release that members only video about the Trojans torching the Big Ten and their counter offer on the contract. And then I believe Bomber's going to do a show on Tuesday, and then Wednesday night we will be doing a big freaking Wednesday show picking 20 total games for rivalry week. You'll definitely want to check it out. For myself, for Rock, I want to thank everybody again for coming. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and we will catch you next Sunday.